So I want you to picture a building. On the outside, it is pure 16th century London. You know, heavy brick, historic, the kind of place that feels like it's been there forever.
Right, since Shakespeare.
Exactly. But you step inside, and the reality just completely shifts. It's a sterile, space-age facility, a high-tech fortress that's protecting a future that is, I mean, honestly, barely hanging on.
And outside that window, London's trapped under a giant dome. The Thames is glowing this sort of toxic, shimmering blue.
And reading a physical book isn't just retro, it's seen as this dangerous, inefficient waste of time.
It is a jarring image, isn't it? The shell of the past protecting what is basically the rod of the future. And that is the setting for the source material we are unpacking today. We're looking at a narrative transcript. It's titled Range Error, Behind the Curtain, Chapter 2.
And this text, it just drops us right into a post-collapse society. They call this district the First, or Hydra. We're going to follow a student named Grace. And Grace is, well, she's a problem for this society.
She is a problem.
She's messy, she reads paper books, and she's trying to solve a math problem that might actually be a theology problem or maybe a physics problem. She thinks it's all the same thing.
She really does. And our mission for this deep dive is to unpack two massive interlocking themes here. First, we need to understand the range error, the specific mistake that destroyed the civilization before this one.
Okay.
And second, we have to decode Grace's absolute obsession with the number 31.
Which, I'll be honest, when I first saw the number 31 in the notes, I thought, okay, are we doing numerology here? Is this, you know, a conspiracy theory?
Right.
But as you get into it, she's connecting things like string theory, algebraic symmetry, and the atomic structure of metal in a way that is, well, surprisingly coherent.
It is coherent, but it's also forbidden thinking.
How?
This is a story about the tension between data, which this society has way too much of, and wisdom, which they have almost none of.
Okay, so let's start with the context. We're at Harrow Secondary School. This is where we get the big history lesson. Who's teaching?
A man named Alejandro Visser. He's from InterHQ. The text describes him as having an icy calm and a wiry look. He's beaming in via VR to thousands of places at once.
Wow.
He is the establishment, the voice of the system.
And he's teaching them about a period of history they call the Middle Kingdom.
Which is us, the 18th to the 21st century.
That is always so humbling in sci-fi, isn't it? When we're the ancient cautionary tale, it's like looking in a funhouse mirror.
It is. So Visser is showing them files on our era, the algorithms, the drone weapons, the economic systems. He lays it all out. And then he asks a question that just absolutely silences the room.
Okay.
He asks, they failed. Why?
That's a fair question. He points out that the Middle Kingdom, our world, had everything. We had the resources, the tech, the global connectivity, every advantage. So why did we crash and burn into what they call the Great Fall?
And this is where you see the psychology of this future society. The room just goes dead silent. These are polished students, you know, future leaders, but they are terrified to answer.
But why? I mean, you'd think in a history class, speculation would be the whole point.
Not in this world. In this world, speculation is inefficient. These students, they lack intel. If you can't verify your answer with a data download or an AI confirmation, you don't speak.
So uncertainty is like a virus.
Exactly. They're paralyzed by the possibility of being wrong.
That is a terrifying concept. It's the ultimate chilling effect. If you can't prove it with data right now, it's not worth saying.
And then enter Grace. She's the visual contrast to all this sterility. Oversized jumper, her hair's all messy, she's completely disconnected from the whole hive mind aesthetic. And she speaks up without raising her hand.
And what's her theory? Why does she think we failed?
She calls it ineffective application. She argues that the previous civilization, we handed over our decision-making to algorithms. She says we let AI refine its own code.
Okay, now, play devil's advocate for a second. Isn't that the dream? Self-improving code. That sounds like the ultimate efficiency. If the machine can fix itself, why wouldn't we let it?
You would think so. But Grace points out the fatal flaw. She says the algorithms were using each other to refine their code. It became a closed loop. The AI defines what success looks like, and then the AI achieves it. It filters out the anomaly, the weird, the unexpected.
Oh, it's an echo chamber of logic. A snake eating its own tail.
Precisely. And Grace says no one had the faith to act outside of certainty. And then she drops this line, which I think is the anchor of the whole text.
What is it?
She says, the dead do not rise to the occasion.
Wow. The dead do not rise to the occasion. That is heavy.
It implies that if you only act when you're 100% certain of the outcome, you are effectively dead. You're stagnant. You can't adapt to a crisis because the data for a new crisis doesn't exist until it's already happening.
And this has to tie back to the title, right? Range error. In programming, a range error is when you try to access data that isn't there.
Exactly.
Like trying to read the 11th item in a list of 10.
Yes. Grace is suggesting that humanity failed because we refused to go out of range. We stayed in the safe, calculated box until the box burned down. We optimized ourselves into extinction.
So how does Visser react to this? I mean, you have a student basically telling him his entire worldview, this worship of data, is sterile.
He's surprisingly intrigued. Another student actually tries to insult Grace by sneering, "She reads."
Like it's a slur. I got stuck on that. She reads. It implies she's getting information from a static, unverified source, a book, instead of the, dynamic, fact-checked stream.
It's like calling someone a flat earther because they use a paper map instead of a GPS. But Visser, he sees she's synthesizing information. She isn't just downloading, she is thinking. And that sets up the conflict for the rest of this deep dive.
So Grace goes home to the first, this high-tech dome, and we see how she lives.
Right.
And the description of her apartment is fascinating because it sounds pretty miserable, even though it's technically luxury.
It is smart material luxury. The dome is crowded, so space is everything. Her desk folds into the wall. The bed reforms itself based on her body metrics. Its efficiency weaponized against comfort.
And in the middle of this smart home, she has a dumb machine, a 3D printer.
A retro arm printer.
Yeah.
And she's not printing spare parts or tools, she's printing paper. Extruding cellulose fibers and pigment to create books, page by page.
And the source text describes the scene where it all goes wrong. She misses a virtual meeting with a friend, she panics, knocks the printer over.
And the smart desk tries to fix the room while she's still standing in it. It clones her on the head.
Ouch.
It's a moment of physical comedy, but it really reinforces the hostility of her environment. The room doesn't care about her. It cares about the program of the room.
The smart tech is actually incredibly stupid when it comes to human nuance. But it begs the question, why? Why does she do it? Why go through the effort, the mess, the risk of a concussion just to print a book when she could just blink and have the text in her brain?
She describes reading as breathing. She says that in a book, time both stands still and speeds up. But the key insight is about shades of gray. She argues that black text on a white page is more vibrant than full-color VR because it forces her brain to do the work.
Right. It's that difference between active and passive again. The VR feeds you the visual. The book forces you to construct it yourself.
Exactly. She says it offers 180 degrees of perspective. She's addicted to the process of thinking, which is what makes her such an outlier. She has a shelf of tangibles, printed books, a succulent, a photo of her family. These are her anchors in a world that's entirely digital.
Okay, so she's recovering from her desk assault. She sits down with her printed pages and she starts studying. And this is where we need to take a minute because her study session turns into a theory of everything.
This is the core of the deep dive. This is the obsession with the number 31.
It seems so random at first. She's looking at Newton's laws, but her brain jumps to theology. What is the connection there?
She notes that 31 is often associated with the most fundamental force, or God, in certain numerological systems, where Hebrew letters correspond to numbers. The name L equals 31.
Okay, so 31 is the divine. Then she pivots to chemistry.
She looks at the atomic number 31, gallium. Now, gallium's a fascinating element. It's a soft metal. It melts in your hand. But Grace focuses on its optical properties. It acts as a superconductor that can convert electricity into white light.
Okay.
It's used in transistors and mirrors.
So we have God, and we have a metal that turns energy into light. That's poetic, but she thinks it's physics.
Then she goes to mathematics, and this is where she brings in the monster group.
Right. I feel like we need to explain the monster group carefully because otherwise it just sounds like a bad horror movie.
Okay, so think of a snowflake. A snowflake has symmetry. You can rotate it, you can flip it, and it looks the same. That is a group in algebra.
Got it.
Now imagine a shape that exists in 196,883 dimensions.
I physically cannot imagine that.
No one can. That's why it's called the monster. It's the largest of these sporadic simple groups, a collection of symmetries so massive it defies logic. But here's the connection. There's a specific set of prime numbers that act as the keys to this monster. They're called supersingular primes.
And let me guess, 31 is one of them.
31 is the largest of the supersingular primes that divides the order of the monster group. So, in Grace's mind, 31 is a bridge. It connects the physical world gallium to the divine concept and finally to the mathematical structure of the universe, the monster.
She sees it as a fundamental theory. She thinks scientists are ignoring this because they're too focused on the easy math.
Specifically, she gets frustrated with string theory. She notes that 31 is the 11th prime number, and M theory, the leading version of string theory, requires 11 dimensions to work.
And she also links 11 back to sodium, right?
Yes, atomic number 11. Sodium explodes in water, releasing hydrogen gas. And Grace is angry that science in her time ignores hydrogen in assembly index calculations to make the model simpler. She feels they're ignoring the basic building blocks, the assembly, just to get a cleaner result.
It goes right back to the classroom scene with Visser. They are ignoring the messiness of reality to get a clean certainty. They're ignoring the hydrogen because it's hard to calculate.
Exactly. She's seeing this pattern of reductionism. The world is trying to simplify everything: history, reading, physics. But Grace believes the truth is in the complexity. It's in the monster group. It's in the hydrogen that gets ignored.
It's like she's seeing the source code of the universe and everyone else is just looking at the user interface.
That is a perfect analogy. And as she's having these huge realizations, there's another voice in this section. She calls it 87.
87. This part felt different. It didn't feel like just her own thoughts.
87 seems to be an internal monologue, or maybe something more. And 87 offers a theory on consciousness that flips the whole script.
We usually think of consciousness as something created by the brain, right? Neurons firing inside our skulls.
87 suggests the opposite. 87 argues that consciousness is intelligent energy that saturates everything. It's in the vacuum of space. It's in the empty air. The theory is that the unconscious recognizes space intimately.
So we aren't generating consciousness. We're tuning into it.
Like a radio. And 87 thinks humans are, and I'm quoting here, too stupid to notice because we're looking for intelligence in our machines or in our own brains instead of in the empty space between things.
That is a haunting image, especially when she looks out the window. She sees the dome, the pollution, the dying planet.
She describes the dome as a life support machine at best. It's keeping them alive, but it isn't life.
But she has this strange optimism, doesn't she? Even looking at this dying world, she believes the fundamentals will survive.
She does. She believes that because the math, the 31, the monster group, the symmetry, is fundamental to the universe, it'll endure even if humanity wipes itself out. The question she asks is, will it rescue us along with it?
That brings us all the way back to the title, Range Error.
A range error stops the program. It crashes the system. Grace is realizing that her society is trying to run a program that is too small for the universe. They're ignoring the out-of-bounds data, the intuition, the risk, the messy connection between God and gallium.
So Grace is essentially trying to debug reality.
Or at least she's trying to print a version of reality she can hold in her hands. That shelf of tangibles she keeps, those aren't just knickknacks. They're proof that another way of being is possible.
It's a powerful metaphor for us, honestly. We live in a world that pushes us toward efficiency, toward the download, the quick summary. I mean, even this deep dive is a summary.
It is. But the goal here is to prompt the thought, not replace it. Grace is a reminder that insight, true insight, is inefficient. It requires getting hit by a desk. It requires staring at a number until you see string theory. It requires reading rather than receiving.
If we take one thing away from this source, it's that quote from the classroom. The dead do not rise to the occasion. Safety and certainty are comfortable, but they don't solve the problem.
Only the range error, the willingness to step outside the allowable bounds, can do that.
So in a way, Grace is the error. She's the glitch in the system.
But the glitch is the only thing that might actually save them, because the glitch is the only thing that's actually alive.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with that thought from 87. If consciousness is just intelligent energy filling the vacuum of space,
Then you are never actually alone in the room,
that is both comforting and absolutely terrifying.
just like the number 31.
Try to find a tangible moment today. Print something out. Read a physical page. Go interact with something that can't be downloaded.
Just watch out for the furniture.
Thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Goodbye.